So there's 3 sections to the book, right? Front matter, body, and back matter, right? To every book. It doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction. However, fiction is a little different from nonfiction in some parts of the book. Tonight, we're going to just talk about the nonfiction book because that's my specialty. And I want to share that with you. So not all of these elements will be in every published book, right? But knowing about how a book is laid out can help you with your research, or it can help you about the type, the quality, or the book that you want to share with the world. And I will tell you that there's a lot of people out there that just knows that you need to have a table of contents, you might need to have a title page, and you need to have the bio in the back. And there's a lot of people don't know what else entails, what else is in a book, right? There are even some publishers that do not know all of the elements of a book. So tonight, I want to give this to you from almost like a scientific perspective of your book, right? So when you're done tonight, you will know exactly what these terms mean if you hear them. And if you want to include them in your book, you can, and you know exactly where they would go. So the front matter of your book is everything prior to the introduction of your book, right? So if you pick up a book, I think I have my book here. I have The Image in the Mirror, which we launched earlier this year. Image in the Mirror, right? So everything prior to the introduction, let me see if I can find the introduction. So everything prior to, wait a minute. The introduction of the book is the front matter. So all this stuff that's here is considered front matter, right? So half title page, what is that? Some books, when you open it, right, the very first page you see only has the title, nothing else, just the big bold title. So Bags in the Attic. Do I have a copy of my book? Do I? Hang on a second. Let me grab a copy of my book. I think I do. So I have 2 of my other books. So this is my memoir. You notice on the very first, oh my God, I'm trying to let you see it. Hang on, let me spotlight myself. Okay. So on the very first page, it just says Bags in the Attic. So that is what is called a half title page, because only the title appears on this page and the rest of the page is blank. Same thing like my very first book that I wrote, well, my very first anthology was Finding a Path to Victory, and it is the same thing, right? Half page. So you can do it like that, but you don't have to, all right? So Image in the Mirror, I did that differently. This now is called a title page, because on this page, it has the title, the subtitle, and my name. See that? Now, in my other books that had a half title, so the very first page was the half title page where it just says Finding a Path to Victory. And the second page was the full title page, because now it has Finding a Path to Victory, it has the subtitle, and it has my name. All right. So I wanted to show you some examples of what was a half title versus a title page. So on the title page, you have the name of the author, the publisher is found there, and any other information that you want can be on that title page, right? I choose in all of my books that the page, so the front part of the title page has title, subtitle, and name. The back part of the title page is the copyright page. On the copyright page, you have the ISBN number, the printing number, the publisher's address, the year the book was published, and the Library of Congress information. Now, again, not all publishers sends books to the Library of Congress. So for those publishers that do, the Library of Congress control number is always printed on the copyright page. All right. Let me see if I can find it in here. It wasn't in my book either. So not all publishers put it in. However, if the Library of Congress control number was not included in your book, sending a copy of your book to the Library of Congress will automatically get your book cataloged with the Library of Congress. So that's another way to do it, right? Which is really great. So if you wrote a book and you don't see the Library of Congress number in your book, taking a hard copy of the book and sending it to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., they will catalog the book and they'll literally send you an email or information about a Library of Congress control number, and that will help you get your books into libraries and things of that nature. Because the library wants to have a Library of Congress control number so that they can catalog the book in their library. Dedication page. So this is an optional page. It does not have to be in the book. Not everybody wants to dedicate their book. And bear in mind that with nonfiction books, it's not only memoirs, right? Nonfiction books can be educational. It can be a guide. It can be a how-to. It could be a cookbook. It could be a poetry book. So again, a dedication page is an optional page. It does not have to be in the book. But if it is going to be in your book, you want to make sure the dedication page comes right after the copyright page. So it would be your title page, the copyright page, and then the dedication page. And this is, if you want to dedicate the book to someone or to something or for a reason, this is where that would go. It could be one sentence. It could be a paragraph. You don't want it to be too long, right? The acknowledgements page come right after the dedication page. And this is where the author thanks people for helping in some way, to get the book out. Sometimes acknowledgements page is just saying, thank you because, I went to this church and the pastor was very influential in my life. And I want to thank him because had it not been for him, I wouldn't be here where I am today, right? So acknowledgement is just thanking people. Here's another thing that I want to share with you about acknowledgements page. It does not always have to be in the front of the book. It can be in the back of the book also at the back matter. There's some people who acknowledge the whole world. And if you're going to acknowledge like the whole world and it's going to be 3 pages of acknowledgements, do not put it in the front of the book. Nobody wants to sit there and read through all of that, right? So that's when I would say to an author, put the acknowledgement in the back of the book because you're acknowledging every person that has ever entered your life, right? But if it's just a page or 3/4 of a page or half a page, it is nice to have it right behind the dedication page. The next page is the table of content. And the table of content lists the individual chapters, right? And what I love about table of content, especially when we do the ebooks, right? Not all formatters do this, but this is how it should be. A formatter, when he formats your ebook, he hyperlinks the table of content so that if people are looking at the table of content on their smart device, and there is a chapter that jumps out of them because of how you titled the chapter, they can just click on the hyperlink and it takes them exactly to that chapter. They don't have to skim through the book on their phone to get to chapter 10, right? If chapter 10 is hyperlinked, they click on it, it takes them straight to chapter 10. So I love doing table of contents hyperlinked in ebooks. But the table of contents just gives the reader the layout of the book and every chapter or every idea that's in the book. So it kind of gets them understanding, oh, let me just see what's in this book, what this book is all about, right? It's a great way to scan a book and see what information is included. Now, the next one is a foreword. The foreword is not supposed to be written by the author. It's a special supportive information written by someone of influence who knows the author and can vouch for the strength, the character, and the expertise that the author has. So I've seen someone send me their book recently and they wrote the foreword, and I'm like, no, the foreword is not for you. You write the introduction, you don't write the foreword, right? So the foreword is a special introduction that offers supportive information. If this person is not adding value to your book, it's not necessary to even have a foreword at all. All right. You can stand on your own without someone. So make sure if you want to do a foreword, then the person is influential, they have weight. And if someone sees their name on the front of the book, like foreword written by so and so and so, they'll say, wow, if Dr. So or Mrs. So or Mr. So vouch for this author, then I want to read this book as well. Preface. This is written by the book's author, right? But this contains information about the book topic, but outside of the book contents. For example, my second book that's coming out, No More Bags, right, is the sequel to Bags in the Attic, right? So what I'm doing in this is having a preface, because what I want to do is share something important that will not be in the book, but it allows the person reading the book to get an understanding of the before they read the book. Does that make sense? It's like sometimes when you watch a movie and they have to give you like a backstory before they jump into the movie, right? And the backstory sets up the scenes in the movie and allow you to understand where the movie starts and where it may go, right? So that's the preface. It's not in the content of the book. So it's a little bit of information that you want to give the reader prior to them reading your book. Now, here's the thing about the front matter of your book. It's never numbered in the like 1, 2, 3, right? It's never numbered in the 1, 2, 3 order. I forgot what name that is called. It's usually numbered in Roman numerals. So 1I1, 2I2, 3I3, IV4, V5, V1I6. So when you see those Roman numeral numbers, then you know that is everything prior to the start of the book. All right. Okay. The body, that is the second part of your book, the body. So the middle part of the book, right after the front matter, is the body. And the body starts with the introduction. So everything prior to the introduction of your book is the front matter. The introduction of your book starts your book, right? And the introduction is really giving author an understanding of why they write the book, the information that they might find in the book. So they're giving the reader an overview of what is in the book. That is why I always say to my authors, never write your introduction first. Write your whole book. Chapter 1 to chapter 10, and then you write your introduction. because the introduction is almost like a snapshot of what the readers will get. And most people, when they go to a bookstore or they go onto Amazon and they make a decision to buy your book, they look at your title, they read the description of the book, they read your introduction, because the introduction is a free page read on Amazon, right? And if it entices them, then they'll buy your book. So it's important that you write your introduction last, so it is a overview, inviting the reader to understand what the book is about. Most people try to write the introduction first, but it is not recommended, because you may add information in your book that is highly grabbing or attention grabbing that you never got to put in the introduction because you write the introduction first, right? So just a best practice. Not that you must, but it's a best practice to write your introduction last. Body or chapters, and this refers to all of the book, right? So, we have a specific structure that I created: the hook, the body, the resolution, and the conclusion. Everything in those chapters is considered the body or the chapters. If you're doing a workbook, I love to use the word pillars, right? So if your workbook is about a particular topic and you want to cover certain topics in your workbook, I like to call those pillars. So I'll break it down by, love, forgiveness, community, or whatever it is, depending on the workbook you're writing. And then each of those subject or topic that you are talking about or highlighting, I like to call them pillars. And the reason why I love to call them pillars when you're doing workbooks is because it sets you up for when you go to do your workshops or your summits or your conferences. You can literally take those pillars and create mini speaking point, mini presentations. You can do courses for your workbook based on the 5 or the 6 or the 7 pillars, right? But again, bodies or chapters or pillars are what's in the middle matter or the body matter of the book. In fiction, and I put this in here, well, let me just say this. All of this part of the book is now numbered, right? Like page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's another way for you to recognize that you're reading the body of the book. Also, certain parts of the body is in chronological order, and we'll talk about that a little more when we get to the structure. If you guys have ever taken a writing class with me or heard me talk about it, some kind of author challenge, you will know that I want you to start your book with a hook, right? The hook is the first chapter of the book. It has to be compelling. It has to grab an attention, right? And then all the other chapters in your book is the body, resolution, and the conclusion. And so when you get to the body, that's where you kind of go back and you're giving now a backstory. It's the history. It's the, what happened in chronological order, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, depending on your age. And you're giving, things that align with the book. Not everything in your life is going to need to be in the book, right? But what is relevant to the title and the message that you want to convey in the book. In fiction, the chapters are usually called scenes. The people are called characters, right? And so those are separated by blank space within the text. So if you notice, if you're reading a fiction book, right, and there is a conversation between Joan and Charmaine, and then there's another conversation between Charmaine and maybe Althea, there is that blank space, right? Big space. And then you see the other dialogue happening. In nonfiction, we don't necessarily leave all of that space. We create dialogue within the chapters and use different paragraphs, or we try to separate the paragraph based on an idea with Joan and Charmaine. We do all of that. Then there is something else between Charmaine and Althea, and that's the next chapter, right? So it differs a little bit from fiction. In both fiction and nonfiction, chapters might be grouped together and labeled as part 1 and part 2. And that's what we did with The Image in the Mirror, both of them, right? Because what I noticed is that in this book, there's so many stories that were similar. And because we wanted to pull together similar stories, I created 4 different segments. So we had 17 stories, and we had 4, I think I call them section. Let me see what I call them. Section. So there were section 1, section 2, section 3, and section 4. And each section had a name or a theme. For example, section 3 was called Deliberate Damage, right? And under deliberate damage, I deliberately write what came to mind when I think about the words deliberate damage, right? And right below that, I put a scripture. So for every section in The Image in the Mirror 2, right, there was an overview of what the section title meant, and then a scripture below it. So for example, deliberate damage. And this is what I wrote. The people that hurt us the most are the people closest to us. They often do not recognize the pain they cause because of their own brokenness. The effects of their behaviors can cause lasting damage. How does the recipient of those damages break the cycle and prevent the cyclone of similar patterns of behavior? And then I put Romans 8:37. Yet in all these things, we are more than conquerors and gain an overwhelming victory through him who loved us and died for us. And all of the stories in this section, deliberate damage, was where parents or children observe parents. 2 of the stories in this book were daughters seeing their mothers stabbed almost to death by their fathers, right? And then another story in this section is where a little girl, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, watched her mother get beaten by her father like day after day after day, right? So what I recognized after having like 16, 17 stories was how similar the stories were, and then just kind of grouped them together based on the story the author was telling. So part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, there were 4 parts to this book. Each part had a title and an overview, and then we went into the other chapters. All right, back matter. So we talked about the front, we talked about the middle. Now we're talking about the back matter. One of the reasons why I'm sharing this with you too, and I will post this in the group so you guys can grab it and just have it for your own reference. One of the reasons why I want to share this with you, remember, one of the things that you're getting as a bonus is a author coaching certification, right? And having an author coaching certification means that you have to understand the anatomy of a book, so that when you get ready to coach someone to write their book, or to guide or to help someone write their book, you may not want to help them to publish it, but my goodness, you'll be able to say, hey, here is a best practice, or here's a great idea, or this is how you put your thoughts together to start writing, right? All right, back matter. All the pages appearing after the body of the book. So now you write your introduction, you write your 10 chapters, your book is done, like done. The end. Okay. So now other things come after the end of a book. Some book just end it like that, and that is it, right? Especially if it's like a guidebook or no, that's not true, because guidebook usually have back matter, but certain books like devotionals may not have a back matter, right? A 30-day devotional, here's the 30-day scripture, prayer, place for you to write your thoughts and reflection, your book is done, right? But I love back matters. Why? Because if you notice when I talk to you about hook, body, resolution, and conclusion, I like the books to be concluded with something. I like when you end with something. So the reader takes something away and they feel like, wow, she told her story or she wrote a devotional, but she's giving me something as well, right? This is what is in it for me, because I feel like she left something for me, right? So in the back matter, there's something called an afterword. Just like how we had a foreword, there's something called an afterword. And this is additional information for the reader to know after having the book, reading the book. So in my book, Bags in the Attic, right? I have an afterword. Why? Because I have another book coming, right? So the book was done, right? Completely done. And then, boom, my daughter had wrote a piece and my stepdaughter had wrote a piece, and I call it reflections. So that is the back matter. But also what I did on the last page was I was on the train with my daughters, I fell into a sleep and I had this dream, right? And this dream was crazy. And so we ended the book on the dream, because now I'm asking, is this real or was it a dream? So that's how I ended the book, because the dream was actually real. So now the book is going to start. When I start, the way I started book 2 is reminding people about the dream, right? So that's why I said that is kind of like, that was the preface of the book, the preface or whatever you call it, preface, right? So the afterword, you can always write an afterword, especially if it's a memoir. Additional information for the reader to know, right? You don't have to, it's not necessary. Most books don't have an afterword, but just know that if you want an afterword. So let me give you an example of an afterword. Who watched, what's it name? Let me tell you. Who watched Wakanda Forever? Everybody watched it?
No.
Okay. All right. So I won't give it away. There was an afterword in there. Right? There was an afterword. You watch it all the way till the thing is done, till the credits is done. All the way. The credits were done rolling, and then boom, something happened. That's the afterword, right? So your book is done, and then you want to give some additional information to the reader. That's where you put it after the book is done. Okay. Appendices. So nonfiction books, right, may have one or more appendix listing recommended books, websites, organizations, or other resources relating to the book topic. So this is where if you're writing, especially if you're writing a book where you cite a lot of things from other books, you would put it there, right? So you'll put it in the appendix and say, here is where I got this from, and I'm recommending this book or this website or this organization. When I did Bags in the Attic, I have appendix in there because I cited the domestic violence hotline and things like that people can go and get information. Fiction book, rarely you will find appendix. Ever so often they may put one in there, but nonfiction book, most people, if they choose to have a lot of sources where they or information that they want you to have, they'll put it in an appendix. Glossary. This again is found in nonfiction book. Dissection lists vocabulary words and their definitions as they relate to the book's subject matter. Again, if people are writing guidebooks or how to, or books that are, sometimes you'll find like an attorney, they'll write book about how to, protect your intellectual property. So you'll usually see a glossary there where they'll list certain words, especially if it's very legal, they'll list it and their definition. Sometimes you'll find glossary for books that are very biblically driven, right? And what some of these things mean. Bibliography is the reference used in writing the book. So again, if you're using references, you can put it in the back of the book. Charmaine is going to be editing a book by Dr. Eunice, and it's all about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And the book is incredible. And she has a whole list of references in the back of her book that she listed. And then index. Usually, again, in nonfiction books, it's an alphabetical list of significant terms found in text and the pages they appear on. And it's helpful to someone seeking specific information. Again, none of these have to be in your book, but I wanted you to have them so that you understand, if you see them in a book, what it means, right? And if you choose to use them, which of the words would be relevant to what you want to put in the back matter of the book. But this is great to be in the back, your bio, right? So in a lot of books, the only thing in the back matter is the bio of the author, right? And that's fine as well. A sentence, a paragraph, or a page about the author. Tangela, you have your hand raised there?
Is that numbered consistent with the body, or is it numbered?
There's no number.
There's no numbers.
There's no number in your back, in the back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we'll number them, and I should take that back. Sometimes we number them because we put them in the table of contents. So yes, it will have a number. You're right. Yeah. Because it's right before the author bio. So we would number them so that you could go to, it would be listed in the table of contents. So yes, good question. Great question, as a matter of fact. Yeah. So yeah, they would be numbered all the way to the author bio. Good, great question. Any questions about this? What are your thoughts? Takeaway? Was this good information?
Yes, I have a question in reference to the bio.
Mm-hmm.
Each time that we write a book, do we use the same language about ourselves, or do we tweak it, or have it completely changed, or how does that work?
So it all depends. Like my bios are pretty standard, except if I got something else. For example, now my bio has executive producer because I just did a film, right? Prior to doing the film, I never had executive director on it. So if things change, at one point my bio said, 4-time best-selling author. I stopped put that number on books because I'm now like 16-time best-selling author. So I stopped put a number. So I took out the 4, right? So you can tweak your bio based on just, growth personally, or from a corporate perspective, or you change your job, or you're now, for example, when I spoke to Charmaine and you, Althea, you guys are going to use a different position now when you talk about yourself, right? So instead of just Althea P. Jones, you're now Althea Jones, your harmony coach, right? Charmaine, you are, writer, author, transformational coach, so it whenever things change for you from a positioning perspective, you may want to tweak your bio, but for the most part, it should be. Well, here's the thing. When you do your bio on the inside part of your book in the back matter, you can do a long bio. Let the readers know everything about you and how they can contact you, right? You want that in your own book. When you go to the very back of your book, it is required for you to do a book description at the top and your bio on the bottom. You want the bio on the outside of the book to be no more than probably 100 words or less, right? So this bio is really just a blurb. It's really short, but because you're going to have your picture, your book description, and your bio on the back of your book, and it also has to have your ISBN number. So this is the outside part of the book. I did not put it on here. This is really just the internal part of your book, but you always want to have you on the back cover. I didn't put a back cover on here, but on a back cover, that's what really goes on the back cover. You want to have your book description at the top and a picture of yourself. This I chose to have me and my 2 daughters because the whole story is about us. And then my short bio here, and then the ISBN number. And at the back of the book, I have a much longer bio at the back of the book. And same thing here. We have all the authors on the back of the cover of this book. And then the book description. And we did it differently this time. We put the authors in the middle and the book description at the top. And, we just kind of create. And then a really short bio. I think my bio here was 86 words. But in the back of the book, my bio is really long. Yeah. And same thing here. Short bio, picture, book description, ISBN. Okay. Is that good? All right. Let me see where we are. We are at 6:58. All right. So
I just wanted to ask a quick question because this right here is like it's taking me back to college.
Margaret said it's taking me back to college. Okay.
It is. In every single class I had to write, they call them research projects, but it was it was a book. So my question is, as far as like the national standards for literary works, and I don't want to get it mixed up because it's like, since this right here is nonfiction, are there different guidelines? Like I hear you talk about the Library of Congress, and so that means that any type of educational institution could pick up that as a read for their class, so it has to be scholarly. So am I mixing it up in my mind, or is it like a certain standard? The national standard for literary works, are we following that or not?
That's what this is.
Okay. So
this is the national standard for literary work. That's nonfiction.
Okay.
There's 2 types. There is fiction and there's nonfiction. Fiction, really, if you think about it, the only difference with fiction is that you have a plot and you have characters. So it's characters and plot and all of this other stuff that is added in there, but that goes into the body. This is just for book. Remember?
So is it the verbiage that's different? Because like I'm trying to get out of my mind, like I have the thesis, I have
you're talking about so here's the thing. When you're writing for a thesis, like if you're going for your doctorate, that's a completely different type of writing than if you're writing for publishing. Completely different.
So that's what I'm saying. Because like every report that I wrote every semester in every class,
Mhm.
we was told we had to have our thesis statement. We had to follow through with the thesis statement, then the body in the summary,
That's
the
not for,
conclusion and a summary. So that's what I'm trying to get.
no, get that out of your
Thank you.
mind. Yeah, take that out of your mind. This is strictly for publishing purposes, book publishing,
Okay.
not for your thesis, not for any of that. This is when you're putting a book together, right? Because even in colleges, the standard of editing they use is the AP standard.
Mm-hmm.
In book, it is the Chicago manual style of editing. So it's completely different.
Okay.
We don't use AP style to edit our work at all. We use Chicago manual of style to edit the books for publishing purposes, not for your doctorate, not for a thesis. Even as a preacher, like when I put my sermon together based on what I was taught at Howard University, I put it together like I'm getting ready to write a thesis, right? So I got to separate that when it comes on to publishing a book.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know because I don't want to get myself so tangled up.
No,
here.
don't get tangled up in there, girl. And let me tell you something. It can be as simple as you don't even have to have any of this stuff. You have a title page, a copyright page, your chapters, and your bio in the back of the book. You're ready for publishing. But what I wanted to give you is the publishing standards for books, just books, not for papers or thesis or anything like that. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So now that you have like the overview of the layout of what should be or can be in the layout or the anatomy of your book, let's go into the art. Wait. I think I stopped sharing. Let me go back to sharing. So now we're going to go into the art of delivering the story. Where did I just put it? That structure in the story. All right. The art of delivering the story. This is the fun part, right? What I showed you first, that's almost like the science of your book, right? So as you're getting ready to write your book, it's just a matter of knowing what goes, first and second and third and fourth, right? Now let's talk about the art of delivering the story. Before you write, you have to ask yourself, I want to make sure I'm still recording. Let me just look. Does it say I'm still recording? I can't see.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Before you write, I want you to think about these three things. Before you even put pen to paper, I know we do it backwards all the time. And for years, I did it backwards too. We always sit down and we just start writing. Why? Because we have notebooks upon notebooks of notes about our story, and they're all over the place. They're in this journal here, then they're in that journal over there, then they're in another journal, then they're in our phone, then they're handwritten somewhere, then they're on our computer. And now we have 5 different things of notes trying to put it all together. And that's our story, right? Jonah, have a book. Where is the book? It's all over the place. I've been writing for 10 years. It's all over. Okay. Before you pull all of the book together, I want you to think about these 3 things before you write. Even if you're already written, that's fine. But before you decide to make it into a book, I want you to think of these 3 things. Ask yourself, why are you writing? and answer yourself. Who are you writing for? And answer that question. And what is the benefit to them? And answer that question. Why? Because once you sit down to write, when you realize why you're writing it, who you're writing for, and what is the benefit to them, the writing flows. It flows because you have a plan. You got a plan. There is a purpose. I think what I call it down here, the mission. Did I put a mission in here? Where is it? Did I put mission? No, maybe I didn't put the mission, but that's what I wanted to say. It is the mission of your message, right? You have to find the mission in your message. So why are you writing? So I want you to write that question on a piece of paper because that's going to be a part of your homework. Why are you writing? So write that down because next week I want you guys to share that with me. Who are you writing for? Here's what I want to share with you. And if you've taken my writing class, like Charmaine, you've seen me do this a million times. Trina, you may see me do this. Andrew, I know she's seen me do this. Charmaine, Althea may, because Althea took a writing class with me before. Think about this funnel. I'm going to go back to the funnel, right? Here's a funnel. And Marvis and Pranchetta, I think I may have done it when I did the retreat. So think of the funnel, right? It's filled with water. And you drop a penny in the funnel and just pretend that this is wider at the top. When you drop a penny in the water, boom, it splashes, right? But then the penny goes down and it lands all the way to the bottom. Where the water splashes at the top, that is your target audience. It just splash. It's people who you know, people who probably have worked with, people who know you're an author, people who, your family, your friends, your colleagues, they may be excited that you're writing a book, right? But they are the splashed people. So they may or may not buy it. They know you. They know that you have integrity. They like you and all this other stuff. But I don't know. I may or may not want to buy her book because it doesn't appeal to me what she's writing about, right? As the penny comes down into this narrower part of the funnel, it starts to make more impact because now it's closer. So it's not splashes anymore. It starts to get big. It's almost like puddled, right? So those people are the niched audience. The niched audience are people that are aware of what you have experienced, right? And know some of the things that you have gone through and know somebody that has gone through it or have gone through it themselves, but now they're healing on the other side, or may know a family member or a child or a neighbor that has experienced it and want to know more about it so that they can help others, right? So that's a niched audience, a little more narrow. They're going to buy your book. They may wait until the book comes out in paperback. They may wait down the road until you're doing a book signing and buy it. But where the penny lands is the ideal audience. This person needs your help right now. This person is waiting on the book. This person is struggling. They're in tremendous need for what you have. And so the minute you tell them you're writing a book about grief, or you're writing a book about overcoming, church hurt, or you're writing a book about overcoming domestic violence or child abuse or whatever it is, or a guidebook to help people, become, do their affirmations or whatever. Once they hear it, they're going to buy it. They're going to pre-order it. They're going to buy it when the ebook comes out, and then they're going to buy a copy of the book. That's who you are writing to. The person who needs it, the person who is going through now what you have been through, the person who is looking for an answer, who is looking for help, who is suffering, who's struggling with the fact that they lost their child, right? The fact that they lost their husband, in Trina's case, so they are your audience. They are the ideal reader. That's who you're writing to. If the niche audience bite, great. If the target audience bite, even more amazing. But you're writing for that one person who needs it because they experienced what you experienced.